Recently I bought the tickets for Gen Con 2025 and I thought it could be a good idea to look at the shelves and play the games from Gen Con 2024 that I hadn't played yet. This way I won't feel guilty adding more to the collection. Tesseract is a game that I picked up at Gen Con last year because it looked really neat on the table, because I was attracted by this strange, not tower, but kind of a cube made of cubes. What an interesting concept. And yes, you are scientists and you're trying to disassemble and contain this Tesseract, this mysterious artifact made of these cubes with these very nice symbols, which in truth they are functionally the same as six-sided dice. And so you can actually tell the number of pips. There is a 1, there is a 3, a Z represent a 2, the 4, the 6. So you're able to see them after a while, I'm sure. So we need to take that apart and place the dice, there you go, on this display here, matching color and numbers. So orange 1, orange 2, purple 3, yellow 4, and so on and so forth. We need to cover that entirely. If we're able to do so, we win the game, because the game is cooperative. We fail if too many dice are placed in this area here, and you place them by numbers. So the 6s will go here, the 5s will go here. If there ever are 3 of a kind at the end of a round, then that causes a breakthrough, and you'll take and you record the number of breakthroughs experienced by the players there. And if there are too many breakthroughs, then that's one way to lose the game. You and or the team also lose if the Tesseract is ever completely empty, so there are no dice here, but you have not filled up the display here entirely. To create the Tesseract, you will place one of these discs on that Lazy Susan up there on that pedestal, and there are multiple ones with different symbols here, and the combination varies because there are different game effects, and they're all negative, they're all negative events, and the composition of the symbols will create different levels of difficulty. And I mentioned this as a Lazy Susan because, again, that disc with those effects there, you place it at the beginning, then you place the dice on top, and then you will remove dice during the game. And as you remove dice and those symbols at the bottom become visible, you have to resolve the corresponding effect. And that's how you change the difficulty, the level of difficulty of the game. You also have your personal display here, your personal library, where you will place the dice that you collect from the Tesseract, and you will manipulate them. You'll form different sets. You have a unique character. With a unique ability that is always on, and a unique action that you can take during your turn. And I set up 2 because basically after I film this segment here, I'm gonna play the game solo. It's set up to go, so why not? And to play the game solo, simply you play with 2 different scientists, and that's all. That there is no other adjustments required. You also have cards that will give you special actions, and you can play them at any time during your turn, before, after, even during a main action, which is unusual. They will do different things. They have different levels. These cards are level 2, and you also have special cards with special actions and abilities for level 3 and level 4, and they're increasingly better as you go up, but you start with level 2. So what do you do during your turn? You will take up to 3 actions, and you can take them in any order from a list of possible actions, so this makes it an action selection game. And yeah, the general engine, as you probably start suspecting, is very similar to that of Pandemic, meaning you take actions from a list in any order, then the game does something terrible to you and tries to destroy you, in this case in particular to rip apart the whole fabric of the time-space continuum, and that's usually bad, I think. So what can you do? During your turn, as an action, you can remove a cube from the Tesseract. It needs to be a cube that is visible, and it needs to be a cube that has at least 3 sides that are visible. So for example, that one will count, 1, 2, and 3, the top counts, but well, the ones there in the middle would not. Even that one will count because I can see 3. Okay, suppose that I decide to take this cube here, and then I place it in my library on my personal display without changing orientation, so it still shows the same symbol. Doesn't matter where I place them, I can move them around for my own convenience if I so desire. And then maybe for another action, well, I'll take another cube. I'll take this one, and again I'll place it in my thing. And I would already be at 2 of my actions. You know what? I'm gonna take another one. I'm gonna take also this cube here. That would be the end of my turn normally, because I spend my 3 actions. I can also adjust a die for an action, which means to increase or decrease the value of a die in the priming area there, or in my personal library. If you decrease or increase the value here, you will move the column where it goes. If I decrease a 2 into a 1, it goes here. If I increase it to a 3, it would go there. So remember, you don't want to have 3 or more in a row, so adjusting them is a way to shuffling them and moving them around a little bit. In the priming area, if you reduce a 1 to a 0, it is removed from the game, and that's a way of clearing the priming area a little bit. In your personal display, you cannot do that. You cannot decrease a 1 and loop it into a 6, for example. Now, an action that you will want to do a lot is to contain, but you know what, we'll talk about that after we talk about some of the other basic things. Transferring is to give a cube from your personal mat to another player, or take one from another player into your mat for an action, and with your permission, because it's cooperative, otherwise it'd be rude. You can study, which is, remember these nice research cards that are graded by level? For an action, you can study, meaning you can discard a research card and draw one of a higher level. So a 2, I discarded to get a 3. A 3, I discarded to get a 4. They can be very powerful, but they are limited supplies, meaning if there are no level 3 cards anymore, well, they're gone. There's no reshuffling the discard pile. And then again, each player also has a unique ability action listed on the researcher, and you can take that as an action during your turn. I was mentioning briefly the action of containing, which is super important because this is how we move dice from our personal area to the general display, which is what we need to do, remember, to win the game. So very important. In order to transfer a die from our personal area to the general display, you need to have a set of at least 3, and those dice needs to be either in a sequence 2, 3, and 4 that would count, or a set of the same value dice of the same value. So for example, maybe I have a 6, and another 6. I'll need to reset this later to play it solo. So either a sequence or a set with the same value. As for the colors to count as a set, they need to be either all of the same color or all of different colors. So actually these two would count as a sequence or as a set. When I demonstrate that I have that, I can spend an action to contain. So I take one from one of the 2 sets, and I place it on the display there that I showed you earlier, matching the corresponding symbols. So the 2 orange will go here. Or if I decide to transfer this one, well, it goes up there, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, You see these cards that are placed there. They're placed there at the beginning of the game from a deck of cards, so you don't know exactly which ones you get. When you have completed a column of dice of the same color, for example, same value, you will get the corresponding card. So if I get all the sixes there, I'll take that card, I flip it face up, and that's an extra action. That's a little reward. If you place 2 dice in a certain color, you can already look at the card so you know what you will get. If you get all dice, you complete a column entirely, a line, a row entirely, you get a bonus here, which is when a color is completely completed, you take any die that was destroyed from the Tesseract, you put it back in the Tesseract. Every die that was destroyed by the priming area, you put it back on the Tesseract. So those are little advantages that you get as you are completing sections of that. So that's super important. Also, when you contain, and so you remove dice from your set, you can choose optionally to take all of the remaining dice in a set. Remember 2, 3, and 4. I place the 2, these are remaining from that set. I can re-roll them, which means I'm giving up some control, some partial sets, some predictability, but in return for that, I can draw a research card of the level equal to the number of dice that I re-rolled. I re-rolled 2, then I get a level 2 research card, which again is not bad, but it's not the best that there is. Maybe I'll make it better by studying. That's during my turn. I take 3 actions from there. Then, again, as in so many Cooperative games, the board does something against me. I need first to remove a cube from the Tesseract that is accessible and the lowest value in height. So I'll just look at the lowest that there is. In this case, it will need to be from this level here. If this is the situation, that is the lowest. And because it's the single lowest on the Tesseract right now. However, if there's a tie for height, like it would be in this case, then I look at the single lowest value. And if still a tie, then I get to decide which one is removed from the Tesseract. Then the one that I remove is re-rolled and placed in the corresponding section here in the priming area. If by removing a die from the Tesseract, I also revealed the event printed at the bottom, print them at the bottom, then I need to resolve it, and again, they're all bad. And if by placing a die there, I caused a breach, I recorded in the display that I showed you earlier, 7 breaches equals 1 big loss. And this is how you play Tesseract. So I picked up this game pretty much just because it looked interesting. I liked the cube of cubes that I saw on the table and the rotating mechanism underneath. Turns out I also like the game itself, so that's lucky. Now, I played in multiplayer with 4 players. It was the first time we were playing, and I was a little bit concerned about that. I feared that the analysis paralysis may be overwhelming, that there may be an alpha player quarterbacking kind of problem. Turned out neither of those were actually factors. The game moved faster than expected, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of nice interactions, yes, suggestions, but going from all directions to all directions, and I do not know if it's a matter of the players that we had that night or just a matter of the fact that everybody has their own unique powers, and there's a lot to digest from each player's point of view. So it seems to me that the design itself encourages people sharing information and giving their own contributions, because you may not be able to figure out what everybody else should do so that you can place a certain die. But other people say, hey, I can do this. If I remove that one or I adjust this one, then I transfer one to you, and then somebody else interjects, that works because then we can match this and that. A lot of nice, interesting interactions there. But immediately I also thought that this game could really work nicely as a solo puzzle. I played it in that format also, and I enjoyed it very much. because then in both cases you have really a nice puzzle, because there are a lot of different options, sometimes a little overwhelming almost, but not to the point that I feel like, well, there are these 200 options to consider and they're all equally promising, therefore they're all uninteresting. No, I was able to narrow it down to 3-4 different things that I could do, and considering those was absolutely very interesting. There's also an element that I forgot to mention in the main segment, which is when you contain a cube from your mat to the main display, you need to win. If there is a matching one in the prime area, it is removed. So that's a really nice, interesting bonus there. But that precisely that means that you're trying to line up a lot of interesting, cool things. I only have 3 actions, plus my special powers, which can be very nice, plus those research cards, which can be very powerful. Then I'm trying to line them up so I can remove certain cubes from the Tesseract, preferably certain ones, not certain other ones, because I'm trying not to trigger the effects at the bottom of the display too much. So I'm trying to choose which ones will be placed in my display, and possibly maybe manipulating them, again, trying to delay those negative effects. Then I'm trying to create a set. Then I'm deciding which ones to contain, because I may have an awesome set, but we already contained that die, so what is the point? So I'm trying to figure out the right set, the least to the right die, possibly triggers the destruction of a die in the primed area, then creates a set, a column, a row, so it gives me an extra bonus at the end. All this, of course, in the best case scenario, you're trying to do that, but then other times you're just gasping so you don't lose the game, and you take the digressions from that, because if you lose the game, all of those other nice combos are useless. But when you manage to line up all of those things and do everything that you wanted to do and get those nice synergies, that is really cool and nice. The characters do play differently from one another because the individual powers are quite significant and will alter the experience of gameplay quite a bit. So I'm pretty happy. It's a nice puzzle that works well in multiplayer. If it worked with 4 inexperienced players, I think it can work very well with 2 or 3 also. It's nice and enjoyable as a solo, a bit of a brain burner, but I expected that going in, no surprise there. And it was a pleasant light burn to my brain as I was trying to solve the puzzle of Tesseract.